Well, I got another video review for you tonight. A couple weeks ago, I was on Amazon and I was going down through there looking at all the different quiet generators that they have, because, you know, everybody wants to have a Honda generator, but nobody wants to pay that large price tag for it. These Chinese companies are producing generators at a good price, and, you know, they're very competitive to some of the Hondas. And so I wanted to check this one out and see if it's any good. I've never heard of this company before. It's called Aceup Energy. This one here is their 4,000 watt peak power generator, and it is an inverter style, so you can plug in all your sensitive electronics and all that. So anyways, I just wanted to do an unboxing tonight and show you the generator, and then tomorrow I'm going to do the break-in on it. Then I'll come back after a few days after playing around with it and using it and testing it out, and then I'll come back and give you my honest opinion on it, and then, you know, show you around the generator more and tell you about all the features. So tonight I'm just pretty much going to just go through the unboxing. I have not unboxed it before. Now I gotta say, the first thing that I noticed when I picked this thing up is it does have some weight to it. I think it weighs 43.9 pounds. That's what it said on Amazon anyways. And it looks like it's packaged really good. You can see right here, you've got this top piece, and then it looks like you've got a funnel and a tool. You got a manual, some paperwork, and it looks like the rest of it's just generator. I told you guys that it weighed 43.9 pounds right there, but then right down here it says 50.7 pounds. We're gonna weigh it right quick just to give you guys a more definite answer. 50.9 pounds. You can see here on this side, you got the little access door right here for the spark plug. There's where the dipstick is going to be in there. That's where you would do your oil changes. Here on top and in the front, this is where you add your gas. This is your display here. I'm not going to get into what everything is right at the moment, but you've got some air intake vents right there. Then on this side, this is where you would crank the unit. And then here in the back, this is your exhaust right in here. And you'll notice it's got a spark arrestor over the exhaust there. Just to give you an idea of how easy it is to maintenance it. Right here, you've got a little access panel. You just pull it out. Right down in there is your spark plug. And you can see the spark plug wire is hooked up. I'm gonna go ahead and unhook it. All right, you can see I removed the wire. I'm gonna set it off to the side here. And I always like to check the spark plugs just to see which ones they put in there. And they provided you with a little spark plug wrench. So you just stick that in there, and then you got a little breaker bar. And I'm just gonna pull it out, take a look at it, and see what spark plug it is. Sometimes they put the LGs in here and the Torque brand. I've had them put Champion in there. It just really depends. And you can see that one right there. It's the Torch. That is a L5-30R. And that's a pretty common spark plug for these generators. But I always like pulling the spark plug out just to make sure there's no stripped threads. All right, so you can see I put the spark plug back in place. And just gonna go ahead and torque it a little bit. You don't have to tighten it down to 100 foot-pounds or anything, but you do want to get it nice and tight. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put the spark plug wire back on there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the little access door back on there, and you see it just pushes back on there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and open this side panel, and it looks like it's 4 or 5 little Phillips head screws. I'm gonna go ahead and open it up real quick. Now before I go ahead and take this whole side panel off, I just wanted to show you right here, like I said, this is your drain plug down in there, and that's where you're gonna drain the old oil out, and that's where you're gonna add the new oil and also check the oil level right there. And so you do have just a Phillips head screw right in there. Wow, that one's tight. This one here is a 8mm. I'm gonna have to use it to, wow, man. Yeah, that one was tight. Now I can loosen it with a screwdriver. All right, so once I removed this little access door and got that little bolt broken there, because it was pretty tight, I had to use an 8mm socket to get it loose. Once I got that little door off there, you notice right here, this is your dipstick, and it's also your plug, and it's just the run-of-the-mill little plastic dipstick. But one of the cool things that this generator offered in the same package with everything is this magnetic dipstick. I'm gonna go ahead and open it, and you can see that it comes with an O-ring. And I would say that O-ring slides over everything just like that. You can see that there's a magnet there on the end. It's probably like a rare earth magnet. I'm not real sure how strong it is, but we'll test it. Let's see. All right, so what we have here, this is a bottle of baby oil, which kind of represents motor oil. Here on the bottom, I have some metal shavings, and I've used this to test many drain plugs in cars, and yeah, this thing really does work. So we're gonna see how strong the magnet is, and you can see right there just how many metal particles that thing picks up. So yeah, it does work, and it is fairly strong. This is the first generator I've ever tested that had a nice aluminum magnetic plug in it. All right, so one thing that I really like once I've removed this side panel here is you can have access to the valve cover right in there. So in case you ever had to adjust the valves in it later on down the road, hopefully you don't have to, but let's say you had to, then it's easy to get to that. So if you have to have somebody work on it, they're going to be happy that that is easy accessible right there. And plus with this being able to remove this as well, it makes it even easier. So that's nice to have this so open. And then right here is your carburetor. So if you do ever leave fuel in it and it messes up the carburetor, or you need to have it rebuilt or replaced, it's at least easy to get to right in there. And you can easily access the two bolts right there to take it on and off. So the air filter, it has just a little lever that you just push down right there. It's just a little piece of plastic. And then once you pull it back, you easily reach in right there and see that it just comes with a foam air filter. And you can just, once it gets dirty, you can just rinse it out in the sink with some Dawn dish detergent. Make sure that it's nice and clean and let it dry. And then you can put it back in here. But that's what most of these run, is the little bitty reusable pieces of foam like that. And then you just push that too, and everything's good to go. Also, one thing I wanted to point out is when I remove this side cover, it does have some, sound deadening foam here on the side of this. And we'll test the decibels, see just how quiet it is. Once we get it all up and running, I want to do a proper break-in on it. All right, guys, so I ran into my first hiccup. Here in the manual, it says, use petroleum-based oil, which is supplied for engine break-in before using synthetic oil that you would normally run in there. And I didn't see any in the box. I double, triple checked the box. There was no oil in there. And so I messaged the company. It's got an email address here on the front, which is surprising, that they put everything right there in the front. They also have a QR code, which is nice. And so I messaged them just to find out what they recommend. Sometimes, these Chinese companies, they don't always understand, all the things that they need to put in the manual and some of the corrections that they need to make. So, there is hiccups like this sometimes. But that doesn't mean that the Chinese cannot build a really good engine. I mean, a lot of these engines are, copies of Hondas and Yamahas and things like that, and they put their own touch on it. And some of these are really very good engines, and I've ran several of them. Not this particular brand. This is my first time with this brand, but I gotta say, some of their engines are really good. But this is why I do these reviews, because whenever I run into problems like this, I message the company. I tell them, hey, on page 7 you need to make a correction in your manual, and it just makes it better for everybody. Plus, if you watch my review, you guys don't have to go to this trouble. You know what you need to put in there. So hopefully tomorrow, when I find out from these guys what I need to run in there, then I'll let you guys know in the next video. So like I said, I'm tired. This has been a long day for me, so I'm going to end the video. I just wanted to give you guys a quick run around, show you around the generator. And then tomorrow we'll put some oil in it. I'll do the break-in on it, and then I'll show you guys how to change the oil in it. It should be pretty easy to change the oil, because there's actually a little recessed area right in there for the oil to drain out. And you shouldn't even make a mess with this type of system they've got right in here. So it looks like they've built the generator really nice. But like I said, sometimes there's little hiccups in the manual. Nothing to be alarmed at. I ran into this a bunch with Chinese generators and power inverters and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's nothing new to me. So anyways, talk to you guys tomorrow, the next day, once I get all this squared away and figured out some answers. All right, guys. Well, I got to say, I've had the generator for over a week now, and I've been running it just a little bit here and there, and I just got through running it for about a good solid hour, and so it should be nice and broken in. I've let it sit out here for probably about 15 minutes and cool off. I'm fixing to go ahead and do its first oil change. Now, what I normally do is just drain it off into a bucket and set it up on a step like this. That way I can just lean it over, and I let it run out of gas so I could just lay it over on its side basically and try to get every bit of that oil out of there. Even though it's been sitting out here resting, it's still pretty warm. Ooh, man. All right, let me hold this up right quick so you can see it. I mean, I went ahead and let it touch the rag and you can see how dark it is. But let's see if there's anything on that magnet. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's quite a bit of shavings on that. But that's normal. That's just where it's broke in at. You can see right there, the magnet went from being black to now it's nice and shiny again. So yeah, it actually did its job. And I'm going to go ahead and drain the oil. Now, one thing I will show you is right there. I kind of tipped it over a little bit and spilled a little oil out of it. But you can see right here that the aluminum part of the housing comes out. It makes like a little drip area, and then the plastic goes up underneath that. But this is the way I drain mine. And literally this way is probably the best way that I found to drain the oil and generators, because what I like to do is just leave them laying on their side and try to get as much of the oil out of them as possible. And then when I'm done with the 5-gallon bucket, I just put a lid on it, save it till next time. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and let it drain for a minute and clean everything up, because I'm sure it got a little bit of oil somewhere. All right, so word of wise, I figured that I could go ahead and drain the oil with this panel on here. And I thought wrong. I should have pulled it off, because I did get a little oil inside the case, and that's fine. I didn't get a lot in there, but I should have pulled the side panel off because the little side panel raises up a little bit higher than that little drip edge right there. I thought it was a little lower, but it wasn't. But anyways, good thing I was able to turn it over on its side real quick on that bucket, because like I said, I did get some oil up underneath. Anyway, so when you go to do your oil change, make sure you take that side cover off, and you'll be able to tip it on its side, and you shouldn't get any on the inside of your case like I did. But anyways, I went ahead and got to looking in the directions, and it says right here that it calls for 0.126 US gallons, which in my calculations is 16.1 ounces, and it can take different oil grades depending on your climate. So for here, I'm going to run 1030 in it just for the break-in, and I might switch to something different, but you know, you just go by the manual and do what it says according to your climate. Anyways, they've made it easy for you. They provided you with a little funnel. It is very handy the way that it fits in there just like that. And I went ahead and pre-measured. I've got 16 ounces of oil. You can see right there. All these generators that I've tested, they've never taken quite what they say. They usually are a little bit under. So I do have to say that this little funnel though makes it easy. Check that out. Don't have to sit there and hold it or fumble around with it. And I'm able to do just a nice steady pour. All right, I'm gonna pull the funnel out of it just to see where we're at. And you can see that it's pretty dang close. You can see the oil right there, right where it needs to be. You can see it right there on them threads. And I've still got a little bit of oil left here in the thing. Let's see here. Looks like I got about 3.5 ounces of oil left. And that's what I said, a lot of these generators, they'll say one thing in their manual, and you go to fill it up with oil and you can't get that much in there. So I was only able to get about 12 ounces in this thing. So, you know, you guys check it at home, make sure before you run it. I'm gonna go ahead and check it with the dipstick just to make sure. You guys can't really see it, but I mean, oil come off on the dipstick. You can see oil's coming out right there. So about 12 ounces, guys, and then check it with the dipstick, and you should be fine. All right, so I went ahead and changed the oil. Now I'm gonna put the little cover back on. need to go ahead and put some fuel in it. I went ahead and I ran it dry before the oil change, so it's empty. And I just wanted to show you that it does have a nice little screen on the inside to catch all the contaminants. Oh, and there's a couple of contaminants in the bottom. And I looked and I thought for sure my gas tank was or my little gas can was clean, but apparently it's not. So I'm just gonna rinse it out with some starting fluid just to clean that out. It's all nice and clean now. So I'm gonna put it back in there and I'm gonna fill it up with 87 octane. Now it says in the directions that it takes 5 liters of unleaded gasoline. I'm gonna be running ethanol free unleaded in mine. You can run yours with ethanol if you want, but you know, I'm kind of picky with the generators unless I plan on running it right then, and within the next 2 weeks I don't run gas with ethanol in my generators, and because you know, it could gum the carburetors up if you leave that fuel sitting in there. But with ethanol free gas, I can leave it on there, you know, if I treat it with fuel stabilizer, probably a good 6 months or so. Now if you're wondering how long this generator will run on a particular item, I can't tell you, because each item is going to take a different amount of watts, but it says here in the manual a couple different things, and they need to probably go back and correct this because it's incorrect in their manual. It said in one place that it would run at for 8 hours at half a load on 1.32 gallons of gas, and then somewhere else said that it would run for 7.5 hours at 25% on 1.32 gallons of gas. That don't make sense. So there's a misprint in their manual somewhere. So I'll try to get them to correct it and update it on Amazon. But anyways, I gotta say, this is probably the nicest generator that I've tested. Like I said, I've been playing around with this thing. You know, it always starts up, don't give me any problems, and it seems to be very powerful. So I've been very pleased with this. For a company I'd never heard of before, I was shocked. Aceup Energy is the name brand again. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and go ahead and put it through some tests. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and crank the generator. I don't really know if I should choke it or just put it on run because I ran it probably about an hour ago. So I'm gonna go ahead and choke it again and see how it starts up. I've got it hooked to the oscilloscope and everything. So when you go to start it, you put it in the choke, and then once it starts running, you can put it in the on position, or if it sounds like it's about to run, just go ahead and switch it to on, and then the upper position is off. So it's gonna start now. I heard it. Alright guys, you can see down there, pure sine wave, nice and distortion free. And you can look right here, it's at 123.6 volts at 60 hertz, and that's exactly where you want to be. I'm going to go ahead and plug in a space heater. Now I'm going to turn the eco mode off so you can hear that it revs up a little bit higher. Alright, you can see right here that it says 2 watts. And the reason it says 2 watts is because this light is lit up right there, and that's just to let you know that the heater is plugged in and it has power. But when I hit the on button and turn it on high, it's going to jump up to about 1600 watts, and you'll be able to watch it right here on the watt meter. And also, you can see right here on the oscilloscope the sine wave and see if it distorts with a load on it. So here we go. 300 watts, 400 watts, 500 watts, 800 watts, 1000 watts, 1100, 1200, 1300, 1400, 15, 1643, 1692, 1758, 1771. There it goes, guys. 1771 was the highest that it ramped up to, and you can see right here the sine wave is still nice and distortion free. And right here we're at 1494 watts. So we know that this thing is able to run that no problem, and it should, because it's rated for more power than that. This particular unit's rated for about 3200 watts normal and 4000 peak watts.
Alright guys, so you can see I've got a watt meter going to this heater right here. I don't have the heater turned on, it's just, it's on, but it's not on high or anything. And then the other watt meter is hooked up right here, and it goes to the chop saw. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heater on high. And you can see right there, 600, 700, 1,000. Stabilize out, and then I'm going to see if this thing will be able to power a chop saw and run the heater at the same time. I don't know if it will or if it'll trip the breaker. So right now the heater's using 1467 watts, and you guys are going to have to watch the watt meter down there on the generator. Hopefully it'll run both of them. Let's see. Alright guys. So my girlfriend said that it was using 1500 watts. The miter saw did. But you gotta remember that initial startup, that's a lot of power. So running a 1500 watt heater and a 1500 watt chop saw, that's pretty amazing. Watch this. I'll make sure I'll show you guys what I'm doing. Watch this. Alright guys, so you've seen it firsthand. I was able to run the chop saw in a 1500 watt heater. That's putting a hell of a strain on that generator. So I would say this thing is passing the flying colors. It'll easily run a refrigerator or a pretty decent sized air conditioning unit. All right guys, so now we're going to do a dB test and find out just how loud this generator is. Now I'll go ahead and tell you, I can tell that it's pretty quiet. I can't tell you just by the dBs, but I can just tell you from hearing it, it sounds a lot quieter than the others. It said here in the manual that it's rated at 55 dB at 23 feet. Now I was thinking that, you know, most other test is done at 22 feet. I could be wrong, but we've got 22 foot right here on the measuring tape, and that's the way that we've measured the other generators, is at 22 feet. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it up, and I'm gonna pull the dB meter out on my phone. This thing is really accurate. This is the one that I use, and when I shut up it goes way down. I mean, it's picking up a car coming by the house there, and then when I start talking, you see it jumps up to about 70. So I'm gonna go down here and crank it up, and we're gonna see just how loud this thing is. All right, so I just wanted to check the decibel reading, and right now it's on an eco mode, so it's not revving up very high, but this is the decibels at 22 feet. It's 61, 62 dB. Now I'm gonna go turn it on high and see if it changes much. I think a lot of times from low to high, it doesn't, you know, fluctuate that much in dBs because it's just revving up a little bit higher. And I think it might sound a little louder to your ears, but in actuality, you know, it's the same dB. It's just a different noise that you're hearing. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch it. You guys can monitor it right here when I change the sound of it. So if you look right there, guys, it was showing about 60, 61. Let's look again. Yeah, I was at 60, and then it went up 61, 62. So this thing's really freaking accurate, and it's very sensitive. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't change much between low RPM and high RPM. But either way, it's a very quiet generator. I guess it's about the same noise level as the others that I've tested, but it just sounds quieter to me, to be honest with you. One of them had just a little more of a rattling noise, but this one here's nice and smooth. So I gotta say, it's probably the smoothest sounding one out of all of them, and so it just makes it sound like it's quieter to me. Now, I don't know where they come up with this 55 dB at 23 feet in their manual right there, but yeah, that's what I wrote down out of the manual. So it might have been a misprint. It could have been 65 dB at 23 feet. I'm not sure, but either way, you've seen it firsthand. We tested it, and I've tested the other generators the same way, so that's what we're gonna go with. Alright guys, so while this thing's running, I've got it sitting up here on a stump, and I just wanted to show you that it measures the voltage right there on the screen, and it shows 124.4, and I just wanted to check it with a voltmeter and see if it's close. So there's 123.1 versus 124.4. So, you know, I didn't expect it to be absolutely perfect. None of the generators or the power inverters are never perfect. You know, this is just an estimate more or less. So I never go by the screen on these for the most part, but I just wanted to show you that it's somewhat close. Now also I wanted to show you right here, this is your RPMs of the engine. So it's at 39, 4,000. So yeah, it's just showing the different RPMs of you know, your engine running. So yeah, I thought that was pretty handy. And then there's your voltage again. And then it's at 60 hertz. There's your runtime. It says I have 2.1 hours. So I gotta say, the screen on the current generator is actually pretty bright. You can actually read it pretty easy. I wish it had been a little bit higher up so you wouldn't have to bend down, because most of the time, you know, your generator's going to be on the ground. But you know, maybe if they could have mounted it on the very top, that would have been cool, or mounted it right here, that would have been even better. Hey YouTubers, so it's been almost 3 weeks now, and I've been playing around with this generator, and I gotta say, so far it's been the smoothest generator that I've tested, and I gotta say, it just runs really good. Now, some things that, you know, I'm not too thrilled about are some of the things in the manual. There needs to be some corrections done. You guys know, I'll tell you how it is. You know, this is not just some, you know, review that, you know, I tell the company what they want to hear and tell you guys what you guys want to hear, and you know, I tell it like it is. And so some of the things that, you know, were wrong was, you know, the Amazon listing said that it weighed 43.9 pounds. Maybe that's for the smaller model. Maybe I looked at it wrong, but when I weighed it, it weighed 50.9 pounds. Now in the manual, it said that it would come with some petroleum-based engine oil to do the break-in oil change, but it didn't. There was no oil supplied, and then it also said in the manual that it took 16.1 ounces of oil, and that was false, because I was only able to get around 12 ounces of oil in there, and you guys seen me test that. I drank every bit of the oil out of this thing that I could get. Another thing that was wrong was the listing said that it's 55 dB at 23 feet. I found that to be incorrect as well. It was more like 61 dB, 61, 62 dB on eco mode. And I goofed up and I tested it at 22 feet, but while we were out there, we also tested it at 23 feet off camera just to be sure, and it didn't really make no difference. It was right at the same, 62, 63, 61. It would fluctuate. It would jump between 61, 62, and 63 dB. So that was our goof up that we showed in the video, but we did go back and test it off camera, and yeah, it was nowhere near the 55 dB that they've listed. So they need to do a correction on that. I'm not sure how they are testing it. Maybe they're testing it from 100 feet away, but it says right here that they tested it from 23 feet. 23 feet, it was 55 dB. So again, that's just wrong. But I did find it to be just as quiet as any of the other generators, and I gotta say that, you know, it seemed like it was quieter to me. Now the dB test tells everything, but the way that it ran and the sound of the engine, I guess just because it runs so smooth, that I guess it just sounded quieter to me personally than some of the other generators that I've tested. So anyways, now some things that I do like. This thing is $458 on Amazon. So for 458 bucks, you're getting a lot. 4,000 peak watts, 3,200 running watts. So I mean, literally, you could run quite a bit of stuff with this generator. I mean, you could easily run a good size window air conditioning unit. Like, I could easily run a 12,000 BTU Medea inverter type air conditioning unit with this, because I have one over there and I was able to run it off camera. You can also run a refrigerator, a full-size refrigerator. This thing will handle it no problem, because when that compressor kicks on, you know, it's not going to have nearly as much surge as that miter saw over there that I tested. So I know for a fact that it'll run any full-size refrigerator. And in the testing, you've seen I ran a 1,500 watt space heater, a 1,500 watt saw. Now, right there, that's 3,000 watts. So, you know, I was only 200 watts away from, you know, maxing this thing out. But I figured 3,000 watts was close enough test. You know, I'm not going to fuss over 200 watts. But you've seen that it was able to run the space heater on high and that miter saw on, and it didn't have any problems. This unit here does have a low oil shut off, so you know, if you forget to check the oil and it does run a little bit low, the unit will just shut off before it blows the engine up. This one here has a 2-year warranty, where I noticed a lot of them, you know, just have a 1 year. This one here has a 2-year. So I was pretty impressed by that, especially at this price point. As far as the digital screen right here, to be honest with you, I don't like that it's mounted so low. Me personally, I would prefer it to be mounted up high, because most of the time you're going to set the generator down on a deck or out on a patio or out in the yard somewhere. You don't want to have to get down on your hands and knees all the time just to look at this gauge here. So, you know, while it is nice and it does have a lot of good information, because it does tell you your voltage, your runtime, your frequency, your power output in watts, and it tells you if you got low oil, and it tells you if it's in eco mode. It does tell you quite a bit of information, but again, I don't want to have to get down on my hands and knees and look at this thing, and then I also don't want to have to pick the front of the generator up and tilt it backwards to be able to read that screen. So it kind of makes it, you know, a little awkward unless you sit this up on something. It's very easy to operate this display here. You've got this one button that you can use to cycle through the different modes, and you know, like I said, you know, it's fairly accurate. It's not 100% accurate. You've seen that I tested it with the voltage, and it was off. But most of the time, whether it be a generator or a power inverter or things like that that have a display like this, a lot of times they're never usually 100% accurate. So I don't want you guys to think this is a bad unit because it's not 100% accurate, because it's not. This is a really nice generator, and like I said, it runs really good, and it's just as accurate as any of the other products that I've tested. But keep in mind, none of them are 100% accurate. You know, let's say you needed to run a refrigerator on here. You got to keep in mind that when that refrigerator kicks on, the compressor kicks on, it's going to use a lot of wattage while that compressor is running. But once it kicks off, the refrigerator's not going to use much wattage at all. And so this thing should be able to run a refrigerator for a long time. You know, like I said, it says right here, 8 hours at a quarter load. So that you should probably be able to run the refrigerator somewhere around that. Now, one last thing that I wanted to make mention of is, you know, some of these generators only come with one outlet here, which is kind of aggravating. You know, this one here has two. So you get two 20 amp outlets to plug in whatever you want, and then right here to the side you've got a twist-lock outlet. Let's say you've got a camper or something like that that uses the twist-lock connector that plugs in there and twists, then you've got an outlet right there, and that one's rated at 30 amps. And these both have the little weatherproof boots that fit over the outlets, and sometimes they're a little pain in the butt to get back on there. You know, they do work once you get them in place. And then right here on the bottom, you've got a grounding stud, where if you want to ground the unit, you can. And then right here on the bottom, you've got a parallel set of ports there where you can buy a specific cable, and you can connect 2 generators together, and you can double the output, by wiring them in parallel. And then you've got, an AC resettable breaker right there for this one here. And then you've got a resettable breaker for this one here. And then what this is for you to be able to turn on and off eco mode. So, like I said, if you've got something that you don't want to run at a high RPM that's just low wattage, like some USB lights or something like that, then you can plug it in to the eco mode and make the RPMs go way down and just run real low. Or if you're running something higher wattage, then you can kick it up and make it run faster. So you've got a cigarette lighter port right in there, and then you have a DC resettable breaker right there. Now, if you're wondering, there is no USB outlets here on this generator. Now, some of them have USB, and that's fine, but let's say you wanted USB, don't sweat it. You can always plug in just a USB phone charger right in there that has your 2 USB outlets. Or if you want to use USB-C, you can just plug in a phone charger right there that has USB-C. So I actually prefer this way, so that way you could plug in anything that you would plug into a cigarette lighter, whether it be a fan or a light, or one of those little travel blankets that plugs into your car. Yeah, I like having that cigarette lighter port on there better than just having USB-C or A ports. So anyways, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I gotta say, this has been a good generator. It runs nice and smooth. Like I said, it seems quieter to me, even though the DVs say that it's about the same loudness as some of the others that I've tested. But I gotta say, it starts up really easy, and it doesn't smoke, doesn't make any engine rattles or any of that, and it seems to handle everything that I can throw at it. So I don't think you'll be able to beat this generator for the price. I don't really have any major concerns with it. There were some small issues with some of the misprints and stuff in the manual, but as far as that, I think this is a really great generator and well worth the money. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope this video was informative to you. And until next time, guys, see ya.